Hey everyone, I'm back and taking a look at this tweet from Benji Sales on The Last of Us Part 2. I've talked about this in passing. I've talked about like the idea of this, but I wanted to demonstrate a very clear-cut, definitive example of how Sony and their viral marketers on NeoGAF and Reset Era are desperately trying to control the narrative regarding The Last of Us Part 2. Right now, as of June 24th, 2020, they're trying to convince everyone that the game is selling very, very well. Better than the first game. Better than Animal Crossing even, which in and of itself is laughable. It's a huge, huge success, and the backlash is a vocal minority on the internet. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure, in other threads when I have more time. But I really wanted to go over this tweet in particular because it's actually an adjusted image, but it's really interesting to see how quickly this was disputed by the internet. Buckle up. The Last of Us Part 2 has its first record-breaking moment. Biggest Sony opening ever in the UK. Exactly like I said for Death Stranding. Because, like I've said in the past, these people say this about every major PlayStation release. The Last of Us Part 2, Death Stranding, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted 4, every single time. Like, you just can't take it seriously anymore. Biggest launch of 2020 by far in the UK, in a top 10 made entirely of 3 to 7 year old games. Yeah, the UK is notoriously behind the times when it comes to gaming. Nobody there plays new games. And this is physical only, not counting digital sales, because Sony said nothing about those. I've got a monster worldwide dick to suck, so I can't give you any actual numbers or anything. So yeah, they're trying to spin it. They're trying to deflect. They're trying to point to the positives. Not bringing up the overwhelming negatives, the social media backlash, the mass dislikes, the anger from basically every major Twitch streamer, the occasional paid shill isn't going to be enough to deter people from the overwhelming negativity we've been seeing here. Nobody is happy with The Last of Us Part 2 besides hardcore liberals and PlayStation fanboys. Like, that's it. Those are the only people who are seriously defending this shit. And there's not enough of them to sell copies of the game. Like, they are a very vocal minority. Like, well, a very, very vocal minority. A very small minority. Like, they are a fraction of the audience that The Last of Us Part 2 was marketed towards. Like, none of the actual fans are happy about this. And, I've been hearing rumors that GameStop is like refusing returns of the game. People aren't happy. They have so many copies they can't get rid of them. Like, sales are going to jump off a cliff eventually. And the sequel, I would not be surprised if this kills Naughty Dog's reputation, to be completely honest with you. The game journalists, they aren't able to salvage this. There's nothing they can do to convince people that The Last of Us Part 2 is good.